Alright, hey, welcome to my vlog. I am doing a review of my A7S Mark II, which I used to record my first vlog. I wanted to do this review really quick because I am selling my A7S Mark II and buying an A7R Mark II. So yeah, let's get to it. Alright, so I decided that I'm going to sell my A7S Mark II. Now, I love this camera. It's a great camera, produces a beautiful image. I'm still using it right now doing this vlog. But I kind of came to the realization that most of my professional work is done on the Red Scarlet W now. And I needed a camera that I could do more stills with, like the A7R. And that could still do video, but wasn't its main purpose, and it wasn't the thing that was going to carry me anymore. So I've decided that I'm going to switch over to that so that I have something that can do stills. The A7R has a 42 megapixel sensor where the A7S only has a 12. And the way I kind of look at it is the A7S Mark II is a really good video camera, really good at low light, but it's kind of a beginner photography camera, where the A7R is a decent video camera, but a really good stills camera, and that's more, I feel like that's something I could leverage a little bit better in my business, rather than just a second camera that is a really good video camera, but doesn't really offer something very different from my Red. Now, I know that my review of the A7S Mark II is a little bit late to the game, with the A7R Mark III just being announced and the A7S Mark III probably coming in the next couple of months. But I wanted to do this review because I've had the camera and maybe I have some insights that other people don't quite have on the camera. So I will go quickly over the ergonomic issues and just the very basic issues that everyone else has already touched on. Now, the ergonomic issues, you have the record button on the side, which is kind of awkward. It's in a weird spot and it's hard to hit, and sometimes when you hit it, it has a bit of a delay before it starts recording, and it kind of makes you panic when you're trying to get, you're doing a docu-style shot and you try to get it to start recording right when you press it, but it takes a couple of seconds, so it kind of makes you nervous that maybe I didn't press it right, just because of the feel and the placement of the button. The other thing is the dials on the back aren't very good, and when you're flipping through the menu, every once in a while you can skip a couple of things that you were looking for, and it makes it really hard to find items that are already in a very hard to find menu. This has been really well, is that the Sony menu is not all that great, and it never really has been. I still think it's the same menu on the F55. Same menu they use on the FS7, FS5. They use it on the F5. They've used it forever. So we wish we had something a little bit different over here. Alright, so another big issue is the small batteries. They don't last long. They die really quick. I have to have about 9 of them to make it feel like I can just operate it and not worry about it for a day. A lot of people hate this with a passion. The only reason why I really don't like it is that it makes the hand grip on the A7S Mark II really small, and I have bigger hands, so it doesn't really fit my hand very well. But in the A7R Mark III, they've announced a bigger battery. It's the same battery they have in the A9, and it has about 2.5 times the lifespan of these little batteries in this camera. And, for me, that was something that is really intriguing about the A7R Mark III, but it's not enough to make me buy it. The other thing about the Mark III and the A9 is the autofocus is a lot faster than these A7S Mark IIs and A7R Mark II, but I'm using EF mount lenses that are going to a Metabones Mark IV, and they're not even native Canon glass. It's Sigma Art lenses, so with my A7S, it's next to impossible to use autofocus when I'm taking a photo, so that's one big reason that I want to switch. The A7R Mark II uses it really well, but I'm not sure it's going to be that much better on the Mark III with the lenses that I have, so to me it's not really worth it. The other thing that makes it not super worth it for me is that dual camera slot. I wish they did something more like the GH5, where you could hot swap the cards all the time so that you could do continuous recording. You wouldn't have that 30-minute buffer. Just because I do some events every once in a while and there's somebody talking that goes over 30 minutes, I don't have to, worry about the camera cutting out. The other thing is, you know, so for me, switching over to the A7R Mark II from the A7S Mark II, so for me, switching from the A7S Mark II over the A7R Mark II is really a wash, because I can sell this camera for about $2,000 and get an A7R Mark II for about $2,000. And you know, some people will probably look at that and say like, well, why are you selling this and going to the A7R? Is that camera just as good as this camera, or do you find that camera to be better than this camera? For video purposes, I don't think it's a better camera. It doesn't have S-Log3, it just goes to S-Log2. But you know, for me, this is not going to be my main camera anymore. I have the red for that. So the A7S Mark II for me is a redundancy, and I need to clear that redundancy to make my business a little bit more, how should I say this, competitive, so that I have my investments in the right spot so that I can make more money next year. So I've diverged a little bit from my review on the A7S Mark II, so I'm going to get back to it. Here are some shots that I took today of my dog, and here are 2 shots of me, one in S-Log3 and one in S-Log2, so that you can kind of get a feeling for what that looks like. Overall, the A7S Mark II is a great camera. You know, the 4K is excellent. It makes a super clean image. The slow-mo at 120 frames is really nice. I prefer the 60 for large events and doing that type of stuff. I think it looks a little bit cleaner. You get a little bit more data in that image to make it a little bit more flexible than the 120. The other thing that I really like about this camera is that, you know, for me, it brought me from that $2,000 to $5,000 budget range for a project all the way up to, you know, close to 10 grand. And now that I'm switching over to the red, I'm in that, you know, $12,000 to $50,000 project range. And that's really where I want to be right now. I don't really want to be accepting projects where I'm basically just filming on the A7S Mark II. So for somebody just starting out and kind of starting to get their, you know, fingers dirty and their hands dirty in this industry, I think this is a great starting camera, especially with the Mark IIIs coming out soon, because you're going to be able to get these cheaper than you were before, and it's still an excellent camera and it's still very much relevant. I think the A7R Mark III only does, you know, 24 at 4K still. It's still just 10-bit, so you're not really missing a whole lot, but it is an excellent camera. I'm sad to see it go, but I think it's time for me to diversify my camera portfolio, and you know, that's what I'm going to do. Thank you so much for watching my review on the A7S Mark II. I hope you guys liked it. I'm going to miss the heck out of this camera. It's a great camera. Please like and subscribe below. Follow me on Instagram at NewmanFilms_SLC. The link is down in the comments below, and subscribe for more content, and I will see you guys next week.